That gap that is created is the actual tearing of the veil and realizing a gateway, a doorway to another parallel dimension.
Hey everybody, this is Gons for the Face Like the Sun channel and Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk, doing a quick emergency stream here just to discuss a little bit about a story that I ran into yesterday. It was published a couple days ago, and I think it's appropriate to take a look at here just because the nature of the news and the implications or potential implications and the many layers, of course, with all the things going on today. It seems like every piece of news is some kind of operation at some level, whether in the carnal or certainly in the spiritual. So things to pay attention to. I'm talking about this article. This was published on turkishminute.com for what it's worth. And the headline here is Turkish physicist missing after reporting I can't say that word, irregularities at U.S. government lab. So yes, there's a scientist, a Turkish physicist, who's gone missing in the United States after reporting why am I struggling with that word? Irregularities at Fermilab, America's particle physics and accelerator laboratory operated by the Department of Energy. Turkish media reported over the weekend. Dr. Furkan Dölek, a specialist in dark matter and high energy physics who previously worked at CERN and Virginia Tech, has not been heard from since last week when he was reportedly detained near the Canadian border. His family in Adana, southern Turkey, said they have been unable to reach him for 4 days and fear for his safety. And there is a post by America Party voters, AP voters, and yes, they say, let's share Dr. Furkan Dölek, the Turkish physicist who reported irregularities at Fermilab in Chicago, was captured and disappeared after sharing the information on social media. He's been missing for 4 days. That was on August 31st. The article continues here. Dolek completed his PhD in Switzerland on a scholarship before joining Virginia Tech in 2023 and later working at both CERN and Fermilab. So this is a very recent development here. 2023, this is not that long ago. According to Turkey Today, he raised alarms over safety violations and security gaps at the U.S. facility, filing complaints with the Department of Energy. His relatives say he faced retaliation, including harassment, dismissal from his job, and the cancellation of his visa. The physicist had launched a solo march in Canada to draw attention to his case, or a solo march to Canada, documenting the journey on social media. His last public update, posted on LinkedIn 4 days ago, said he had reached Akwesasne, I think that's how you say it, a Mohawk territory along the St. Lawrence River after walking from Messina. Quote, I'm exhausted, my legs are burning, and I've got blisters on my feet, but I'm grateful to have made it this far, he wrote. His family says his phone and computer were confiscated during his reported detention and that they sold their house in Adana to finance his legal battle in the U.S. They warned that under new refugee laws, he could face transfer to a detention facility in El Salvador. That seems a little embellished there. I'll get into his direct statement here from LinkedIn just to get an idea, because there's again, very complex in terms of its layering here, because on the surface, it's like, okay, guy who kind of worked at CERN and Fermilab, or had brought up warnings about Fermilab, and now he's getting retaliation, and now he's missing. And it seems very straightforward. But as you'll see from his personal post on LinkedIn, it's wrapped up in some of the political stuff going on today. It's politicized messaging, which leads me to believe that there may be something else going on here in terms of I think anything now that is operational in the public has to have some kind of political flavor to it just to grab people's attentions. Otherwise, a story like this may not get the kind of traction necessary with the right kind of people paying attention if it's not got at least some kind of political association with it. Because then, as you'll see, this is the type of story that a lot of the conservatives today will dismiss. They'll be like, this guy's just an immigrant trying to, or illegal immigrant maybe, is how they might characterize this individual trying to, get around the system or trying to get around the crackdown here in the U.S. when it comes to immigrants. So very interesting, but let's continue here. Authorities in the U.S. have not yet commented on his case while his parents continue to appeal for urgent help in locating him. So I found his LinkedIn, Furkan Dölek. It's actually titled "Whistleblower Physicist Speaks Out on Exploitation, Misconduct, and Immigration Policy." You can tell that it's an embed of the post, so it's a real post by Furkan Dölek, and he's the data scientist, founder of Pro SEAI, dark matter physicist at Virginia Tech, and in parentheses it says unpaid, which I think is, again, saying all the right things to be a martyr in this type of situation. Now, his post here, here's how it goes. Pan, distress call from a scientist. And he's got, I believe, is Morse code there. And pan means an urgent distress call. This is what this is. He's saying that this post is an urgent distress call from a scientist. Here's what he said on the LinkedIn post. I am a physicist who worked at CERN, Fermilab, and Virginia Tech. I entered these institutions with nothing but science in my hands. No powerful family name, no safety net, only my work. Okay, so about his work, by the way. There is an account named Furkan Dölek on Google Scholar, and it's a verified email with CERN. So I found that much. So it looks like some of this checks out. And he is associated with several articles in that realm. You have evidence for Higgs boson decay and a pair of muons and yada, 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 scientific papers, which some of them he's named directly as the author. Other times, he's sort of the additional author. Usually these papers have a bunch of people working on it, so it's not just one name. But it's a good handful of articles that, of course, me not being a physicist goes a little bit over my head. But maybe I can share some of these links and stuff as time goes on here. But he does have, again, a profile on Google Scholar, and he does have a handful of articles that he is associated with. So as far as that's concerned, it looks like it checks out that he's, according to this, the Google Scholar account, and who knows, you never know if it's true or not. But as much as I can find here is seems to check out. So this is the part where he starts basically mentioning what he is quote unquote whistleblowing for. He says, "What did I see?" Okay, so he worked at CERN, he worked at Fermilab, Virginia Tech, and he boasts about how he got there on his own. He didn't get there because he was a trust fund baby or just knew the right people or whatever. He claims he got to those levels based on his own work, which part of me makes me wonder, because that is it that bad? I know it's bad. The nepotism is pretty bad when it comes to even science, academia, and the high pillars, the ivory towers of any institution can be pretty bad. However, are a majority of people that work at CERN and Fermilab and Virginia Tech, which, by the way, Virginia Tech shooter, isn't that interesting? Virginia Tech, are they a majority? Are they trust fund babies who didn't get there on their own? Are they, I don't know. It just sets a very strange precedent or backdrop. So anyway, what did I see at these institutions? 1, exploited researchers forced to work under unsafe conditions. Man, wouldn't you love to ask him what unsafe conditions he's referring to? I mean, what are we talking about? Is it just your run-of-the-mill, hey, they don't have hard hats on, and there's a large hadron collider back there, a large piece of metal can fall on their heads? Or is it like the portal is open and entities come to and fro, and these researchers who've been exploited to be the I don't know, the first sacrificial offering to these entities are forced to be within the presence of these entities under unsafe conditions. Who knows? But that's the first thing. Second thing, the most vulnerable left unprotected while misconduct was covered up. Again, this is where I start feeling like a little bit of op with this just because it's so general. It's not specific enough. It's like, okay, yes, most vulnerable left unprotected while misconduct covered up. That could be absolutely anything. That is so open-ended that I don't know. It's just ridiculous. It's the range is as ridiculous as I just laid out with, just hard hats or a literal Stargate opening and people trying to send others, unsafe or exploited researchers, the vulnerable, to greet them or something. And lastly, fraud and retaliation against anyone who dared to speak. Sounds like a secret society of some kind, a good old boys club that if you're in the club, yeah, you're in there. First rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. You mention it outside of the circles that you're allowed to mention it in, and there will be retaliation. And according to Dr. Dolek, he is a target of such things because he has spoken out publicly. Now, I'm going to continue reading his LinkedIn post here because, again, it just gets so dicey and strange. So here he goes. I reported it through every official whistleblower channel. Instead of protection, I was punished. False charges, dismissal, and total institutional silence. Now, in a political climate that celebrates deportations and silences immigrants, there is no legal pathway left for me. I'm forced to move constantly with no permanent place to stay, simply because I told the truth. The sad truth is this: even when an immigrant is 100% right, with evidence and law on their side, there is no real path to justice. Institutions know they can twist the rules and escape accountability. Now, as I said earlier, this is prime to get every conservative that might be interested in this topic to be like, oh, see, he's trying to leverage, he's an immigrant. Get him out of here, get ICE on this guy. This guy's doesn't want to comply to the it doesn't say he's an illegal immigrant. And I don't know. I don't know if he's an illegal immigrant or not, but if he's going to universities, well, I guess that doesn't matter. Nothing really matters to get places in the United States when it comes to citizenry, at least until recently. So maybe he was here illegally. I don't know, but he's making it the thing. He's making it an issue that is preventing him from finding some pathway to justice or freedom. And he's wrapping it all up in this thing that he's taking down. He whistle blew against CERN and the abuse and the system and the dangers of places like Fermilab, and told the Department of Energy, but now, he's getting retaliated. Now he's missing for a few days. And he continues, and current immigration policy makes it worse. When leaders openly set targets of 1.5 million deportations, it sends a clear message: justice is not for immigrants. Again, we're talking about illegal immigrants. At least that's what we're told. And at the very least, as far as I understand, you could listen to Tom Homan talk about this. It's illegal immigrants, especially who have a violent past or violent history. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he's picking on this particular bone with this whole issue here. Many stay silent, hoping they won't be noticed, but silence only protects the abusers until the system turns against them too. But here is what they cannot erase: my work, my witness, and my voice. This is no longer about me. It is about whether international law and human rights can survive political games. If a CERN scientist with diplomatic credentials, okay, there you go, he's got diplomatic credentials and documented protections, can be silenced, then any researcher anywhere can. I wonder if he was here. So maybe that's what it is. He was here on diplomatic credentials, which means he's probably, obviously, not an American citizen, doesn't have a visa per se. Maybe that's where the issue came in. He's here on some kind of scientific research-based deployment. But of course, with things locking down here, um, maybe he's getting pushed out or at least told to go home, and he doesn't want to, or something. I don't know. And he's using this whistleblowing tactic as a way to try to get attention, maybe. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's something really strange going on or if it's just him using the political climate of today to get some attention. That makes this an international crisis, a test case the world cannot ignore. I urgently need your help. And he posts a buy me a coffee link, and he posts crypto wallets. He posted a Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT. That's USD Tether. It's a stable coin matching the US dollar. And, because we're going into the blockchain world, I thought I'd check out these addresses because guess what, everybody? Blockchains, at least the big ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, the blockchain is public, folks. And this LinkedIn post basically doxed Dr. Furkan Dölek's wallets. So we can take a look. This Bitcoin wallet the address he posted, does not have any activity in it yet, not a single transaction. So it's been a few days here. I don't think he's getting the kind of support from the crypto community he was hoping for, which I'm not too surprised. But it's one of those things you can verify. Now, we as a public, anytime somebody shares an address, that there is a way to go look it up, and you're not going to know the life circumstances or the reason behind a transaction, because maybe this transaction was done because somebody was held you at knife point and you had to do it, getting kidnapped or something. Those are scenarios that the blockchain doesn't necessarily reflect, but the transaction itself is all public. That's how it works. Okay, his Ethereum address, again, no activity, nothing, not a single thing that's happened on his Ethereum address. So there's that. Now, the USDT address. Now, of course, I'm not going to get too technical here, but stablecoins are built on different blockchains. USDT is built on multiple chains, but if you look up the address, you could tell that it's an Ethereum address. So we looked up the Ethereum address here, and you can see Tether moving in his wallet as recently as 11 days ago. So, this is an old wallet too. It goes back about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. And you can tell he's moving money from Coinbase and Binance, which is a big cryptocurrency exchange. So you can see all the transactions here, and they're not huge transactions. And $1,100, $1,700, a little under $200. Here's a $478, $500. So it's not nothing, but certainly not enough to garner any kind of criminal attention unless he's accepting money for some kind of criminal behavior, by which Coinbase and Binance might be in trouble for, at least in the past. Nowadays, it seems like crime is legal, is kind of the era we're in right now. So that's just to show that some of these things, when you ask for donations and stuff, you're doxing your wallet and everybody can see those transactions. I don't know if Dr. Furkan Dölek understands that, but I'm sure he does if he's a CERN physicist, hopefully, right? So that's kind of all I have with Furkan Dölek. There's not much other information about his whereabouts, or how are we going to even know if he was found? Is there a place we can go? Is there a website? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because he doesn't necessarily have a social media presence as far as I can tell. Although it looks like Furkan Dölek did go, or at least hashtag Furkan Dölek was trending at the very least on X, and it looks like Turkish News picked it up for sure. It looks like on the timeline. Yeah, it looks like Turkish News picked up some of the stories here. And the Department of Energy aspect of this is also very interesting because obviously some of the corruption that's being exposed there in the last few months here going into this year with the Department of Energy and their mishandling of things. And especially if the concern is safety concerns with the American Large Hadron Collider, that is bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre. It's like, okay, what if there are some troubles? Maybe the U.S. is in on it, in terms of, because all of this is just my shooting from the hip speculation. But it seems like everybody who can afford some kind of collider are building a collider, and it's almost like the Power Rangers thing where all the different countries are building their own colliders, and eventually they're gonna link up. They're gonna they're gonna create the mega collider, and that basically opens the pit. It makes sense. You get the 10 kings prophecy in the Bible. They hand power over to the beast, and if it would kind of make sense if the power source beyond nuclear energy is this sort of quantum energy that gets tapped into with colliders and the technology that exists with that. And it's the very fabric of creation is harnessed with these machines, and then all the nations link up because it's more powerful than nukes, and it's probably going to be interlaced with AI, and it's going to be a whole thing. You can easily see it happen. And of course, if somebody sees that, hey, there's maybe they might think they're crazy if they say something like that, so let's just kind of raise the red flag for the safety concerns, because it is dangerous to get this type of stuff going. And there you go, silenced and missing for a few days. And again, I don't know how we're supposed to know if he gets found unless he publicly states like, hey, I'm good, or here's what happened. It could be a longer play op with a lot of these things. You never know, where you plant a seed of a story early, and then years down the road you hear something from that individual or from the circumstance. And so it's just another storyline that we kind of have to keep pay attention to and keep in mind when it comes to the stuff. But let's see here. I got a few minutes before I want to jump off and get going, but some things to consider with first of all, the age of this individual. He does not look very old. I'm wondering, early 20s, mid 20s, maybe. It seems like there is a whole generation that's been brought up in the system way more than prior generations, and they're either directly or indirectly malleable when it comes to operatives. And so when you talk about highlighting, and because this story is a perfect avatar, a perfect caricature for truthers. True truthers who have been looking at CERN, like this channel. Go dig around, look for CERN Watch on this channel, and you'll see that we've been talking about the CERN issue for a long time when it comes to its potential, and not based on any speculation, but more so based on the quotes made by the physicists and scientists working at CERN, talking about other dimensions and going into openings in time space and all this kind of stuff. I will address the Basel thing. I see a lot of people mentioning Basel and the dead bodies in at Burning Man and stuff, and I have not received a response from Basel yet. However, I did look into the alleged death at Burning Man. They mentioned the name of the individual who died, and that is not Basil's name. It did not say Basil Rosewater, so I don't think it's him. There was another guy that was detained before Burning Man for having a bunch of drugs or something, and some people were concerned because the guy's picture, it resembled Basil a little bit. You don't really get to see his face because he's got his face covered, so I get you're filling in the gaps with your imagination, but that was also not Basil. So as far as I understand, Basil is still there, or maybe leaving today, and he is he's alive and well. He has not been taken over by the dark side, and he has not been murdered at Burning Man, and he did not get detained for trying to smuggle in a truck full of recreational drugs to Burning Man. So there you go. That's the latest on Basil, and we'll address all this hopefully if he's back tomorrow. If not, maybe next Monday we will address everything Burning Man, and I've got plenty of work to do to get all those episodes out as soon as possible. So I'll keep working on it. Anything else? I'm just gonna look at the chat here. Anybody? What did you guys talking about in the chat? Sir Darren, it's awful that when Basil said he was updating his rig, I felt like he would probably not be able to send out any messages. This is like year 6 or 7 of doing this, and every single year, just no communication. We'd figure out a way. You'd think we'd figure out a way. Maybe we should invest in some kind of, I don't know, our own communication network. We would like to propose Canary Cry Com Network, CCCN, Canary Cry Communications Network, where we go real old school. So we're gonna get pixie cups and strings, and we're gonna need a lot of string. We're just gonna have to do it the old fashioned way, and that's how we're gonna know when the apocalypse happens, because my pixie cup is going to be vibrating, and it's going to be all of you guys trying to get a hold of me, saying that, hey, it's happening, it's ending, it's all going down. Let me tackle this real quick, just because I had it up in my browser, and this was something I wanted to talk about and do a stream on today anyway. It ties in a little bit with the CERN stuff, but it's more on AI and religion, and this was published on August 29th by AP. And the headline, AI Apocalypse, Why Language Surrounding Tech is Sounding Increasingly Religious. Oh, AP catching up to the Face Like the Sun channel and Canary Cry with recognizing that the language around technology is starting to sound religious, everybody. Oh no, the scientific dictatorship is rising with AI, the AI apocalypse. I don't know if I want to read any of this, to be honest with you. I'll read a little bit, I guess. At 77 years old, Jeffrey Hinton has a new calling in life, like a modern day prophet. That's Prophet, a modern day prophet. The Nobel Prize winner is raising alarms about the dangers of uncontrolled and unregulated artificial intelligence. So, yeah, it's alarming, is it not, that the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, is like, I'm done with AI. I think he said something to the effect of, enjoy your last few years here. This is the golden age, as Trump was saying. It's the golden era. Have fun, enjoy it, because once the AI really takes over, it's over. It's over. Hinton is quoted saying, "It really is godlike." That's a quote by Hinton. Hinton is among a growing number of prominent tech figures who speak of AI using language once reserved for the divine. OpenAI Sam Altman has referred to his company's technology as, quote, magic intelligence in the sky. Yes, give us your eyeball through the magical orb, which will store your eyeball information in the magical intelligence cloud in the sky. While Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, has even argued that AI could help bring about the Antichrist. And my goodness, I did a post yesterday on X that reflected some of my feelings about just the topic of AI and Antichrist becoming so prominent in today's world. And let me just pull it up, because I want to remember exactly what I said here. I posted the image of Blaze Media with the headline, Silicon Valley Christian, in parentheses, goes viral for chilling AI Antichrist theory. Should we listen to him? Should we listen to Peter Thiel, his Antichrist thesis, which we've covered over and over again since he talked about it years ago? I mean, I think it was years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where he basically said that the Bible talks about Armageddon, where there's going to be this war, this Armageddon situation. But to prevent Armageddon, you need a one world government, which is the Antichrist. And so he doesn't want either Armageddon or the Antichrist. He wants to find the narrow path. That's his direct statement there. A little bit paraphrased, but more or less his theology on, how he sees biblical eschatology. And, you can do your own research when it comes to Peter Thiel. He is the big money, the big technocrat behind the current populist uprising. He's the guy behind J.D. Vance and really the technological takeover of today, the conservative technological takeover, the populist technological takeover, as Alex Jones called it. We're taking the Promethean fire from the liberals. That thing, the Promethean fire that was stolen from the liberals into the hands of the conservatives, all backed, funded by Peter Thiel. So, and here's the thing: the Blaze Media article, they try to kind of do their little dance with, but it was very shallow. The analysis was very shallow. It was like, okay, oh, the Bible talks about a deception. Yes, of course. Yes, we know. And yes, we understand that. Here's what I said. I've been rambling about the potential of AI and Antichrist since 2011 publicly. Yes, I have. I've been screaming about it into a microphone, onto the internet for a good 14 plus years. Most people didn't care back then. It is true. Most people did not care because there was no AI. And I was thinking about this the other day. The most common response I got when I started talking about this stuff to people, the common people, about 10, 15 years ago, it was, yeah, that's possible, but that's like way in the future. That's like 100 years from now. And then now people are freaking out because the AI product is out there. And in similar ways, I think once the brain computer interface chip is a commercial product, we're going to see another big shift in culture and society. No one is ready for that one, by the way. Or very few are thinking biblically about it at the deepest, and or not even thinking just purely ethically about it. Not many people are. Most people are just ready to give up their I don't know, their will and their biology for AI. It says now the topic is, or it says, I said now the topic is everywhere, but most folks aren't exactly bringing solid biblical arguments or references, and if people do, no one cares. No one cares. Okay. Just as a side note, Carl Tykrib apparently posted on his Substack. So maybe we can get a quick update on it looks like he posted. Oh, his last post was on the 27th of August. It looks like. I'm looking at the post to check to see if Carl, because that's where Basil is with Carl Tykrib and the Camp of the Unknown God at Burning Man. So let's see. Each year our camp sets up Burning Man. People ask why we do it. To answer that question, here's an explanatory letter on our camp's crowdfunding page, along with the link to if you choose to help. Yes. Okay. So this is from last year, or at least the letter looks like the same thing as last year. So, okay. So, yep. Unless I'm missing something, Sir Darren, let me know if there's something different from what I just shared there. So at least 6 days ago, he was updating the page, or his Substack anyway. So okay, I was ranting about how the Antichrist AI conversation and how it doesn't. Okay. Let's go back to this article by who was this article by? AP. That's right, AP, Associated Press. Okay, will AI bring condemnation or salvation? There are plenty of skeptics who doubt the technology merits this kind of fear, including Dylan Baker, a former Google employee and lead research engineer at the Distributed AI Research Institute, which studies the harmful impacts of AI. Quote, I think oftentimes they're operating from magical, fantastical thinking informed by a lot of sci-fi that presumably they got in their formative years, Baker said. They're really detached from reality. Okay, so this guy's real hardcore materialist. There's no magic here. This is all computational math. It's just math, everybody. And that's the thing. At the base level, it is just math. It is just information moving around. There's really not much more to it when it comes to AI specifically. Now, how that's being controlled, harnessed, and all that, I think one can argue that it is beyond natural in that, and well, I would say the human brain is capable of doing what a lot of AI does, It's just that AI can spin up a mock-up much faster. It could do it real quick. And it can also do so at kind of a community water fountain where everybody can come drink from the water of AI and mess around and use it to their own purposes or applications. So I guess that's different about it, but it does feel like magic if you compare it to past history. But it's really interesting how AP is presenting both sides here. Although chatbots like ChatGPT only recently penetrated the zeitgeist, certain Silicon Valley circles have prophesied of AI's power for decades. Prophesied. And it's strange because it's not, it doesn't seem like a troll here from AP. It doesn't seem like tongue in cheek or a metaphor or analogy. It seems like they're saying, yeah, no, the prophecy came true. Quote, "We're trying to wake people up," Hinton said. Quote, "to get the public to understand the risks so that the public pressure politicians, so that the public pressures politicians to do something about it." Yes, this again, this appeal to authority is somewhat, I don't know. It's got its own form of covert submission, like embedded or encoded. It's like you guys have to be informed so you can put pressures on politicians to do something about it. As if we can't do something about it ourselves. Like we can't conduct our own, just conduct ourselves if we choose to interact with AI. It's strange how computers and social media and everything, it has completely thrown away personal responsibility. There's no personal responsibility preached on the internet, and it's probably because it's the most boring thing ever. Um, but it's true. It's like, be responsible for your own clicks on the internet. If you get scammed, I've been scammed out of certain crypto things multiple times, and there's nobody to blame but myself. I was the one that hit the button. I could be mad that the scammer was faking what I could be mad at that, whatever. And those are natural emotions when you lose a whole bunch of money gets taken from you or whatever. But in reality, it's like, who is to blame here? There's no one to blame except yourself. And people aren't willing to simply step up and take responsibility. Instead, everything is about telling the politicians to do something about it, to put up the fences around certain ideas or topics or whatever. And it's just not the way to go. At least I don't think so. While researchers like Hinton are warning about the existential threat they believe AI poses to humanity, there are CEOs and theorists on the other side of the spectrum who argue we are approaching a kind of technological apocalypse that will usher in a new age of human evolution. Look at that. This is AP, remember. This is not blog, Joe Truther blog. Nothing wrong with Joe Truther blog. I'm just saying this is coming from an official outlet. In an essay published last year titled "Machines of Loving Grace, How AI Could Transform the World for the Better," Anthropic, there they are, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei lays out his vision for the future if everything goes right with AI. Great. The AI entrepreneur predicts, quote, "the defeat of most diseases, the growth in biological and cognitive freedom, the lifting of billions of people out of poverty to share in the new technologies, a renaissance of liberal democracy and human rights." Now, I actually don't think he's necessarily wrong here. If all goes well when it comes to AI, you will get the defeating of many diseases and growth of biological and cognitive freedom and billions of people freed, quote unquote, from their impoverished or poverty living standards. Could that happen? Yes, it happened with the Industrial Revolution. It brought out a whole bunch of people out of a certain more poverty-driven type of life into a more modernized life. And it did so rapidly. So can it happen? Yes. But does that mean it's going to last? No. Does it mean that guardrails will go down as a society? If things are too good, complacency will set in. And of course, it could go bad real quick. It could go bad real quick. And we know prophetically, eschatologically, scripturally speaking, we know how this ends, right? This is all part of prophecy. It's so interesting because I've been trying to make a list of Bible verses that really addresses topics like AI, and so many of the verses are already talked about so much. Like even for us, like I remember talking about Revelation 13, specifically the image of the beast in relationship to AI. 2014, 2013, 2014 was when I was talking about it and published Age of Deceit 2 about that, and the Age of Deceits afterwards as well. It was basically looking at the role that AI might play in this type of thing. Well, now that AI is out there, it's strange how there is the extreme fear or extreme warning and extreme hopefulness in ways that I don't know if any technology is really, at least in our lifetime, maybe the internet, but even the internet was such an unknown that it blindsided a lot of people. Maybe the people that knew what was going on were excited about the potentials, but for the public, it was not very known, and people thought it was ridiculous to send emails and messages and stuff like that. And now it's legally binding, nowadays. So in similar fashion, as AI continues, everybody knows AI now. Everybody knows what it kind of does and what its potential is, and they are taking the very word apocalypse and changing it for, well, not even changing it. They're actually going back to the original word that we used to. This is a point we've made, that I've made on this channel, on the Face Like the Sun channel, on the podcast, Canary Cry Radio, Canary Cry News Talk, over and over and over again, that the word apocalypse simply means a revealing, a revelation. Now, what it's revealing is what is important to understand. Of course, culturally, apocalypse just means end of the world, but it actually means a revealing, right? So in the book of Revelation, it starts off with the apocalypse of Jesus Christ, the revealing of Jesus Christ. So listen to how AP handles the word apocalypse. Visions of the apocalypse bubble up. Despite Thiel's explicit invocation of language from the book of Revelation, the positive vision of an AI future are more apocalyptic in the historical sense of the word. Quote, in the ancient world, apocalyptic is not negative, explains Domenico Agostini, a professor at the University of Naples L'Oriental, who studies ancient apocalyptic literature. Quote, we've completely changed the semantics of this word, end quote. The term apocalypse comes from the Greek word apokalypsis, meaning revelation. Although often associated today with the end of the world, apocalypses in ancient Jewish and Christian thought were a source of encouragement in times of hardship and persecution. Quote, God is promising a new world, said Professor Robert Gerasi, who studies religion and technology at Knox College. Quote, in order to occupy that new world, you have to have a glorious new body that triumphs over the evil we all experience, end quote. Gerasi first noticed apocalyptic language being used to describe AI potentials in the early 2000s. See, I wasn't the first one, folks. Imagine that. A decade before Gons did anything on Face Like the Sun, there were people paying attention and noticing this. Kurzweil and other theorists, that's Ray Kurzweil, eventually inspired him to write his 2010 book, Apocalyptic AI, Visions of Heaven in Robotics, Artificial Intelligence, and Virtual Reality. The language reminded him of early Christianity. Quote, we're going to slide out God and slide in your pick of cosmic science laws that supposedly do this, and then we're going to have the same kind of glorious future to come, he said. Gerasi argues this kind of language hasn't changed much since he began studying it. What surprises him is how pervasive it has become. Quote, what was once very weird is kind of everywhere, he said. Yes, that's the externalization of the hierarchy is upon us. Has Silicon Valley finally found its God? One factor in its growing cult of AI is profitability. Yes, we know about the profitability of AI. So, let me just continue with Gerasi here. He's got a quote. We human beings are deeply, profoundly, inherently religious, he said, adding that the impressive technologies behind AI might appeal to people in Silicon Valley who have already pushed aside, quote, ordinary approaches to transcendence and meaning, end quote. No religion is without skeptics. Not even Silicon Valley CEO has been converted, even if they want, in on the tech. Quote: people in the tech industry, or when people in the tech industry talk about building this one true AI, it's almost as if they're creating God or something. End quote. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said on a podcast last year. Although transhumanist theories like Kurzweil's have become more widespread, they are still not ubiquitous within Silicon Valley. Quote, the scientific case for that is in no way stronger than the case for a religious afterlife, argues Max Tegmark. Tegmark getting a lot of play. A physicist and machine learning researcher at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Quoting a lot of big hitters here. Like Hinton, Tegmark has been outspoken about the potential risks of unregulated AI. There you go. It's part of the open letter. The letter collected more than 33,000 signatures, including from Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Yes, we remember that. Quote, there are a lot of stories, both in religious texts and in, for example, ancient Greek mythology, about how when we humans start playing gods, it ends badly, he said. Quote, and I feel there's a lot of hubris in San Francisco right now. That's coming from Max Tegmark. I believe Tegmark, I think he is either Catholic or he might be a Christian. I forget. Because the name rings a bell. And especially in these conversations about cosmology and AI and technology, I don't think he is religious. At least publicly, he's not stated any kind of religious belief. But I will publish a separate video going through the 15 verses that addresses AI today. And not all of it is what you'd expect. You know, I was trying to find stuff apart from Revelation 13 because Revelation 13 is so obvious. And there are even other ones that I was hesitant to put in there. Like Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel. Clearly, you look at the Tower of Babel situation and you can see how the hubris of man with a very powerful technology that is trying to reach heaven, basically, right? I mean, it's literally a one-to-one comparison when you think about AI and what it is and the power of it and everything. And God saying that anything they imagine to do will not be impossible, meaning, you know, with this tower, with this technology, with humans coming together with a single language, they're able to accomplish anything they want, which is a little too powerful, perhaps, and would crush the plan of God, the promises of God. And so God made sure that that stopped, and he confused the languages. And that's the Tower of Babel story. There are others, more familiar ones, of course. 2 Thessalonians 2, talking about the coming of the lawless one, according to the works of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders. And there's more. I want to save some of these for the actual video. But one of them has a little bit more meaning with this AI apocalypse one. It's talking about false prophets. You know, if the secular world is calling people prophets in the context of predicting what AI impacts would be to society, I would argue that while AP is highlighting this, you know, both sides of the argument, AP themselves are not the, what am I looking for? The word, not externalizing or propagating. They are propagating the religious language if they are going to use the word prophet and prophecy and things of that nature to describe AI and its capabilities and its users. So, man, it's just, I don't know. It's there's so many layers to this, and then I'll get into some other scriptures that are about idols and about the philosophies of men, because a lot of what AI is pretty remarkable, but it is still the work of man right now. You know, we've speculated about if other non-corporeal entities can inhabit AI or robots or something through AI and have more of an enhanced or more tangible manifestation of these spirits in the physical world in some way. And certainly I think that's possible. But when it comes to the spirit behind AI, and not just I'm not just talking about like the supernatural, but literally the the mechanics of it all. There's a very particular way God talks about how we should handle things, weapons, the truth, even. So there's a level, again, it goes back to personal responsibility, but it's just not present in our world, fallen world. And not that I am so responsible. I fail in many areas in life. Let me just tell you straight up, there's many things I fail at. But at the very least, my message has always been to strive towards becoming more Christ-like, especially after you declare Jesus as Lord and Savior, and you understand what's at play. To me, everything gets deeper and more relevant the more I affirm Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. All the stuff concerning the scriptures, the living word, what it tells us about creation, the situation, the predicament we are in this fallen world, and the solution to it, based on what science and technology are trying to solve. Literally, the very thing that Jesus conquered, death, is the thing that all the physicists, scientists, technologists are trying to do. They're trying to overcome death. They're trying to live forever, really. I don't know why you want to live in a fallen state like this, but in their minds, it's all just an algorithm. They can tweak the algo so that your brain chemistry changes, and boom, you're experiencing eternal euphoria, because that's all it is, right? That's all heaven truly is some kind of programmed euphoria. So, yeah, I mean, you can see how even the materialistic worldview has become religious. And I think that's what's going on. It's not that Silicon Valley and the tech bros are starting to use religious language just to use religious language because it's the closest reference we have to things that are beyond what we understand, but rather they are becoming a religion. AI itself is becoming its own religion. And the implications of that, the only thing that I can think of that even remotely warns about that is the Bible. So, all right, that's it. Just wanted to do a quick stream here. I guess it was quick, 50 something minutes here. Appreciate everybody pulling up here. Please share the video, share the show, the podcast, and let people know about it. This is a CERN update that we haven't had in a while. If you guys are just tuning in now, just a real rundown of the situation. Furkan Dölek, who was formerly he's a scientist formerly working at CERN, Fermilab, and Virginia Tech, blew the whistle. He said that exploited researchers are forced to work under unsafe conditions, and that the most vulnerable are left unprotected while misconduct was covered up, and that fraud and retaliation against people who blew the whistle is ongoing, and thus he is missing. And we don't know what that means. Apparently, he raised warnings to the Department of Energy, which, maybe that was his mistake. Maybe that's the part where he messed up, where he's like, I'm going to let these officials know. Because he did talk about, I went through all the official outlets. I went to every official whistleblower channel. Well, I don't think you did every single one. And maybe the most important one, the intelligence operatives themselves, maybe they're the ones that actually has the control of this narrative. Or maybe you didn't go there, and maybe that's why you're not getting the kind of attention. You're not getting any Bitcoin in your Support Me Bitcoin wallet. But yes, so that's the news here, that this individual reported some problems and that it's being covered up. And now he's missing. He's been missing for 4 or 5 days now. And it breeds curiosity at the very least, and suspicions, and perhaps rabbit trails. I'm sure this story will get picked up in the fringe or the more popular fringy type of accounts out there once it gets more ubiquitous, and or maybe during a slow time, because a lot of people are distracted from a lot of different things right now, which is normal. That's pretty normal. But stories like this, which could be very consequential to physical reality, go under the radar while everyone's freaking out about, making sure that the whole trans issue, people that are struggling from gender dysphoria, gay labeled, mental health issue. I mean, yes, it's the obvious. We should have been there all along. And that kind of thing. If you have not heard my take on it, it's that basically it's a manufactured type of revolution. For the conservatives to actually stoke a revolution, you need to pull culture very far left and progressive, make it the norm, make it the mainstream, and then the conservatives can state very obvious things like there are only two genders, or trans gender dysmorphia, whatever it's called, is a mental health issue. All of a sudden, you're being revolutionary if you say those obvious points. So, all right, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure if Basil will be back. We'll find out. Either way, Canary Cry News Talk tomorrow, Wednesday. I'll see you there. We're going to celebrate Adam Curry's birthday as well. Have an awesome day. God bless.